Hello. Today I want to show you guys how to make night vision in Blender. Why? Because, well, I mean, it's cool. It's night vision. Why not? But the other reason is because a lot of the night vision content on YouTube that I found wasn't that great. So I decided why not make one myself, show how you guys it's done. Yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Any beginner can do it. And if you want to skip the tutorial and just want the filter, I'll have it in the description down below. Okay, so before we begin, first we have to figure out what exactly is night vision. Simply put, it's a device that makes dark spots bright. If we look at the reference here, we can see there's a couple distinctions. I would say there's three things going on in all of these pictures that get us that night vision effect. So the first thing we need is a green filter or a blue filter. The second would be brightness, and the third would be noise. And I think night vision is really, that's kind of all there is that you need to get this effect. There's definitely a lot more you could do to get a more sophisticated effect, but I think just having a color filter, having the right brightness, and having the right noise is kind of all you need to get this effect. So moving over to Blender, I have a pretty simple scene, just a prop with a simple backdrop and a single light, all set in Eevee. I'm going to be doing this in Eevee, by the way. And to start off with, I'm just gonna give a little depth of field to my camera. I think depth of field will really help sell this look. So just come down to the camera icon, check on depth of field, and choose your area, your focal point, and just decrease the f-stop a little. Yep. So from here, most of what we're going to be doing will be done in the compositor. So to start off with, just under the viewport shading, turn on where it says compositor, turn into either camera or always. In this case, I'll go with camera. And once you have your compositor open, make sure you hit check nodes, and you should have a setup like this: your render layer into your composite. Real quick, I'm just gonna add a viewer and plug it into the viewer. This way we can see the composite in real time. And to start off with is number one, our green filter. And to do this, I'm going to add a mix color. Just drop that in right there. And change it to, under RGB, just change it to green. And from mix, click multiply. And this is the beginning of our night vision effect. Alright, from here we can just quickly add in some glare. You can see if we open up the reference, there's usually a lot of hot spots in bright areas. Actually, I'm going to move the light a lot closer just to kind of give off that effect. So real quick, just add your glare, and from streaks change it to bloom, and then play around with the sliders. By the way, if you want to go with the white nods, you could, instead of having green, you can just go with a little bit of blue, and yeah, go with a blue shade. And sometimes other colors are going to bleed through. To fix that, you can just copy the filter color, drop it in one node behind, and change it to color. I'm going to do this for the green one too. So if you want to go back and forth between white or green, you can do it so here. But anyways, moving on to the grain part of the video. So I'm just going to add in a texture, drop it in, new texture. I'm gonna open this up a little bit. And once you have just an empty texture node, you want to go over here to the right bar, come down to texture under texture properties, and from here we want to generate a noise texture. To do that, all you got to do is from here click, yes, over here where it says image or movies, scroll down till you see noise. Combine this with our composite. So I'm just gonna add in a mix node, mix color. Drop it over here. Drop the texture into the second input, and under mix, I'm gonna hit not multiply. Yes, color dodge, and then I'm just gonna drag and drop the factor a little bit. Right now my nose is pretty small and fine. Just a quick way I think I'm gonna solve that is by adding a scale transform right after the texture, and then just increasing it just a little bit. Maybe that might be too much. Let's go with 1.5. And of course with the flat factor we can increase or decrease how much we want. And we're just kind of starting to get there, honestly. We can actually add a lot more, a second grain pass, one that's maybe bigger in scale but smaller in or less in opacity. But I want to keep this video simple, so we're just gonna for now just have one grain texture. We got the filter complete, we got the brightness complete, or excuse me, we got the noise complete. Now the third thing we have to do is brightness. And I wanted to do this after we got our base night vision effect, because you know, this goes back to what night vision is. Night vision is a device that makes dark areas brighter. Right now we're not actually really doing that. We're just kind of just have a filter where we're just only letting in blue light or green light. So to increase the brightness, what you don't want to do is add a brightness node. You want to do this out of the compositor and in the camera. So if I select my camera, what I want to do here is grab my render, scroll all the way down to color management, just drop that open, and under view transform you want to use filmic, and you want to play around with the exposure. You want to increase your exposure based on how bright you want your night vision effect to be. And this is this I find is the more accurate way to make night vision, because like I said, it's a device that makes dark areas brighter, and what better way to do that than the exposure of how much light gets fed into our camera. So now we got the filter, we got the brightness, we got the color, we got the brightness, we got the noise. It is pretty much almost there. I mean, honestly, you can get away with just something like this. I would play around a little bit more with the grain. Might be a bit too much. One thing we can do is add a vignette, a very solid vignette, these black outlines. So quickly I'm just going to add in an ellipse mask. This is just gonna make a circle or an ellipse, but what we want to do is we want to make it into our shape that we're going to use to crop out our night vision. You want to put that into a mix node, mix color, put our render, our composite render into slot 1, put the mask into the factor, and then plug that into the viewer. We'll want to add an invert node, invert color, and drag it right there. Now we have a white outline. Change that to black, and we're getting close. Now we can add in a little bit of blur into our mask, either before or after the invert color, and just play around with that. and we're pretty much there. And there we have it. We have a very quick, basic night vision setup. You can push this a lot further, and I totally recommend you guys do. There's so many different ways you can play around with night vision, whether you want to go with a realistic effect or stylized effect. Real quick, if you want to animate this, you want to go to the grain texture, and in the offset settings, under X, you can just write down hashtag frame, and what this does is it matches the offset to the frame rate. So each frame is actually going to be increasing the offset, and it's going to look like a moving grain. Yeah, something like this. And there you go, we have an animated night vision effect. Just to finish this off, I want to add just a little bit of distortion to this image. And a quick way to do that is with the lens distortion node. Just drop that in at the end. Increase the dispersion just a little bit, and increase the distortion just a little bit. And you can see how when you increase this, you actually lose some of the edges, you lose some of the image around the corner. And to fix that, you hit fit, and then I'm just going to bring this down back to something subtle like let's go with 0.04, same as the dispersion. Okay, so some last changes that I made was I added a second grain pass. You can just duplicate these two nodes, paste them down here, and just feed them through a color dodge, and of course play with the settings. And then the last thing was I wanted to exaggerate the highlights just a little bit. So what I did was I added this glare node right after the render itself. And the cool thing about the glare node is you can actually only have the glare be visible if you just increase the mix all the way up to 1. And the cool thing about that is you can use that as a mask to only add just the highlighted parts of the glare. So I just added a mix color node right after the color filter, and I set it to screen. And with that, I got my final effect. Yeah, if you guys end up using this filter, definitely tag me. I would love to see what sort of things you guys can make. And yeah, that concludes today's lessons. See you in the next one.